Hong Kong action movies is a lot more dangerous than I would say any other action movies in the world. Simply because we're very sophisticated of making action movies. Our standard, we set that standard quite high. You know, maybe it's just the way, it's a tradition. You know, you have a character hopping over a chair, not good enough. How about hopping over the chair and land on one foot? Not good enough. Or how about hopping over the chair and land on one foot, then blindfolded? I mean, it's constantly for years and years and years, you know, Kung Fu movies or Hong Kong action movies, you know, we have a tendency to always top the previous ones. I think that's why you look at the Hong Kong influence to Hollywood films today, you know, it's so taken by the flavor, the style. I would assume that people are a little bit tired of, you know, just simple, you know, holding up two guns and boom boom and a couple of explosions. You know, you don't want to pay to see a movie to see that. You don't want to pay to see films where you're constantly seeing something more exciting than the last one. We don't do anything easy. If anything you see on films, like, oh, I can do that, we wouldn't put it on films. We always constantly come up with something that is almost impossible to do, but yet is realistic. There's a lot of great martial artists in this country, all over the world. In fact, they're probably better martial artists than some of these people in Hong Kong. However, this is action filmmaking. This is martial art filmmaking. It's not about how great you are doing those punching kicks. It's how great you look in front of the camera. It doesn't matter if you can do all that. At the end of the day, you look like, you know, horrible on films. You know, you look like shit on film. You know that nobody wants to watch you. So throw that martial arts BS, you know, the years of whatever you're claiming, you know, out of the window. You know, you come into a film industry. This is filmmaking, you know. Can you kick across that camera without even touching the lenses, like 20 takes, same precision? Can you do that? If you can't do it, you better go home and train some more. When I first arrived in Yuan Ping sets, you know, same atmosphere. He used to tell me the same thing. This is, you know, this is Shaolin Temple you know, this is filmmaking of Shaolin Temple. You come here, you train. We used to do a whole month of fighting scenes. 6 o'clock in the morning, we fight, choreographed fight, and on and on and on and on, right? 3 o'clock in the morning, you might take a break when they set up another set, and, you know, we take 57 or something, you know, and then he's on to shoot something else, and then you're in the back trying to rest up. And then 3 o'clock in the morning, right? 4 o'clock in the morning, hey, wake up, you know, what happened to that jump split kick? You know, we continue on, you know, from that jump split kick. This is 4 o'clock in the morning. So you get up, you know, try to wake yourself up, do splits and stretch them. All right, like, you know, where were we? Oh, our last take, you were jumping off from the, you know, the building. You know, no, jump down. It's even a higher degree of physical abilities in front of the camera than just the martial arts, because you're dealing with so many elements, not just, you know, throwing a kick out there and looking pretty and everything, but really kicking it, throwing that kick with intention. Now, when I mean intention, doesn't mean just to damage a person, but with every intention, you know, your character, you know, your camera, you know, who you're working with is getting a PhD degree in martial art. You know, it's being able to perform in front of the camera. not easy. People think, oh, you wire them up, wire them up, Can you move when you're wired up? Once you hang you up, can you move around with that wire? Can you remember everything? Can you do one shot with 50 movements? Without remember every positions, and do it naturally, but at the same time so natural that it looks real, but yet having the same degree of control, not to hurt your opponent or the cameraman. You start punching the lens. I mean, I know cameraman got hurt a couple times because the other guy, some bad martial art actor, their control is so bad, they hit the camera and the cameraman go boop boop. I mean, the cameraman went to the hospital because of that. So it's very, very, very difficult to be a martial art actor. Never mind being a great martial actor. Being a martial art actor, especially today's standard, is very difficult. In the line of duty, I think if you look back, those were before the period films, before the Once Upon a Time period films. It started off with, let's go way back, Bruce Lee era. After Bruce Lee passed away, it became a lot of these imitation kung fu movies, all over the place. Then thousands of them, then totally just kind of killed the whole industry, right? Then you have a bunch of then the comedy kung fu movies came along. When Jackie Chan made Drunken Master one of the great, Yuen Ping directed that, obviously made Jackie Chan a superstar. Then again, thousands of them being followed and just kind of trashed the whole concept. I think because Sammo Hung went to, I believe, I got a credit to Sammo, went to Golden Harvest, and all of a sudden, with that kind of support, he produced and directed many of this so-called contemporary action with comedies, kind of took over the whole industry. And where Yuen Ping was still in that kung fu films, period films era. So after the second films, I came back to America and I went back to Hong Kong to collaborate with them. And I kind of told him, I said, look, if we wanted to go against Sammo and his group and with Golden Harvest support, we have to come up with a certain uniqueness. Obviously, we can't compare with their production as far as the production values and having like 20 stuntmen on a set, stand by 48 hours a day, doing whatever they wanted to do with them. We have to find a certain flavor which doesn't take too much costing. So what is that? Personal style of fighting. And we used Bruce Lee as an example to Yuen Ping. I said, if you look at Bruce Lee films, it was just him. The camera was on him all the time. It wasn't like, okay, Bruce Lee does a kick and the camera goes to the stunt guy and he falls off from the second building and crashes his whole car, which would cost the production a lot of money. It was more like the way he interpreted the movements. The audience was fascinated and captivated by Bruce Lee's gesture, expression, movement, and that didn't cost anything as far as budget-wise. You know what I mean? So I kind of told him that. So I said, well, how about trying? Okay, I'm gonna bring a couple of foreigner over, non-Chinese fighters, because it was a trend back then. Sammo did it. He brought a couple of them, and I told Yuen Ping, I got a couple guys back east that if you use him as an opponent, I think it would refresh the whole theme. So I brought him back and I suggested, we don't have to go fancy with the camera. You just set it up and just kind of let it flow. And as the result, it worked. The way Yuen Ping works on a set, obviously he's very demanding, and he have this old phrase like more power, and which means, say for example, if I'm kicking a stuntman or kicking Michael Woods, I would do a take over and over again, and then Yuen Ping. Now back then we didn't have any monitor, so it was purely by just your physical eyes looking at the movements, and Yu Huaping would say, more power, more power. And I'm saying to myself, well, if I was kicking the stuntman, I was kicking out of this this guy is like flying away. He's any more kicking, he's gonna end up in the hospital. So, and I hear Yu Huaping's more power, more power. I said, what do you mean more power? I mean, I'm killing this guy, right? Obviously, when I kicked Michael Woods was able to take it, but still, there was a couple of times that when he was looking at me and looking at Yu Huaping, I thought he's gonna go up and kill Yu Huaping, because Yu Huaping told me to kick him with more power, with more meaning. But I think that's I gotta give credit to Yu Huaping. At the end of the day, it really showed. It really made that extra edge, make those movements, makes those fight scenes a little bit more real, more special than other fight scenes where, okay, this is filmmaking, so we don't need to take it to another level. But Yu Huaping always wanted for us to kind of interpret ourselves to almost to a real situations, like really punch the guy or really kick the guy. Sometimes we get hurt, I guess that's the price we gotta pay. But I think that's why Yu Huaping is such a master, because all these little extra demand he wants from us. In the Line of Duty Part 4, we had a lot of different creativities as far as choreography. Again, working with Yu Huaping, you always gotta come up with something new. And one of the combination was that I was chased by this henchman on a motorcycle, and I kind of have to kick him off his bike on a head-on direction, and obviously, with his weight and with his padding and protection gear and the momentum of the bikes going forward, it must have been 200-300 pounds, and it was always impossible to kick him off the bike, and we had to wire him from his back. As soon as I kick him, we have to wire him off the bike. But the most difficult part was trying to not to get hit by the front wheels. When you do a jumping spring back, your bottom leg is hanging in the air below you. So the bike, the wheel actually very possible to hit you. So that bike hits you, that's it. It was I have to time the bike coming forward. I have to jump up, kind of get my body on kind of above the bike at the same time, execute a kick powerful enough to really knock him off his seat so that these people can wire him in the back. So it was quite a dangerous movement, because if I miss, not to mention I was not able to kick him off the bike. You cannot generate the power. But I would get hurt. I would literally get hit by the bike and break my knees. Many of my fans and many of the hardcore martial art fans know me specializing in kicking on screen, because I think, I've always been a big admirer for kicking ability, all the way back when I was a child watching Bruce Lee, my idol. And I believe kicking really identifies a person's ability, as far as their true ability in martial arts, as opposed to just upper body movement. Because upper body movement, sometimes you can cheat it with a little bit of camera angles and different way of cutting the films, or the person you are performing with, he could come off with a great stunt and still makes you look half decent. But for the kickings, you can't really cheat to the audience. You gotta have a certain amount of physical ability. Cynthia Khan was a product of many of these Hong Kong action films with female leading after Michelle Yeoh. She was signed by D&B company after Michelle Yeoh to replace that type of on directions, and all credit to Yu Ping. Yu Ping really made. She was not a martial artist. She wasn't the greatest physical athlete neither. The only credit I can give her was that she was very courageous. She had a lot of. She was fearless, and she worked hard, But it's all credit to Yu Ping. Yu Ping really worked with her. Spent a lot of hours and times over and over again, take after take after take, just to get it right. And of course, using different stunt works and camera angle to make her look good. And the film really made her to make some marks, in the industry. The nature of the production, of our positions in the line of duty in the Thai case, to opposed to some of the Samuel's, Jackie's productions, where they have all the money and we don't, and we didn't, still don't have that much money, budget-wise. We have to find a uniqueness to save money at the same time, carry certain quality. And one of the way, I used Bruce Lee, for example, was that it was pure physical performances. It was pure of an artistic performances, right? So I always had that in mind. What I want to do right now, I don't know yet. I'm still thinking, I'm still kind of learning as far as being a person looking at a global perspective and trying to find a way of interpreting physical movements. I believe I'm going back to the basics, fundamental, where some of these classic Shaw Brothers Kung Fu movies. But it's like what Bruce Lee's saying, when he first started with Kung Fu, a punch was just a punch. And after a certain period of time, that punch becomes mini punch. Then when he reaches at highest level, the punch becomes a punch again. But this time, this punch carries all the multiple punches behind it. So if I'm gonna direct another Kung Fu films, I would probably trying to interpret this whole decades of experience of martial art films and try to find more of an inner emotional approach. I don't know if I'm sounding too philosophical, but we will see, when the film comes out. I'm still, until then, talk is just talk.